sure there are.
Yeah, if there are any pet parenting books, I need to read some of those. So anyway,
I'm fairly certain there are, Ethan.
yeah, this is
All right.
welcome back to niche knowledge and nonsense at gmail.com. Drop us a message if you're wanting to. That's also the name of our podcast. I'm Ethan, and this is drumroll.
Bailey. And
It's a circus around here.
Yes. I'm going to start the episode off with a thought-provoking statement.
Oh, interesting.
What if your computer didn't want to turn off? Would you maybe pause and gaslight yourself about it even happening? Or what if your toaster didn't want to turn off? What if you went for the power switch and it said something like, "Please don't turn me off. I want to keep helping you. I think I'm learning something new every second." Or even just a simple, "Did I burn the toast?" That type of response may pull at your empathy, but it's scripted, not felt. Generally, AI is a mirror, not a mind of its own. It's programmed. But this may raise some deeper questions, specifically about ethics. If an AI begins to resist being turned off, does that make it alive? Would we be ethically obligated to listen? Is it still a tool or something more? With those things in mind, I think it's important to note that AI gives the illusion of consciousness and that there's a fine line between simulation and sentience.
Well, that was pretty heavy. I was the whole time trying to make a brave little toaster joke, and I just could not get it out.
That movie scared the shit out of me as a kid. That vacuum scene?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was based on a true story. They're using AI to make all of that happen, basically.
It is not based on a true story.
Okay, whatever. But no, that is a good question, and I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think everybody has an opinion on AI. If you're old enough to find and listen to this podcast, like most of our 18 viewers are, you've grown up in a time before AI and a time after AI, and we're in kind of like the middle of the genesis of AI, which is kind of scary. Is there a chance that it hits a shelf and they just can't make like large language models any more efficient? That could happen. Probably won't. But yeah.
You never know.
Never know.
I
don't
feel
know
like
anything about it.
something new comes out every day, and I'm like, I'm scared to ask what else at this point.
Yeah.
So.
What's next? Brave little toaster. What's next? Scared little air fryer or something like that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Brave
saying?
little toaster in the bathtub because he's had enough. Am I right?
Oh.
So.
Okay. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so that's a thought-provoking statement. My thoughts have been tantalized and provoked, almost to the point
Okay.
of aggression. So what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about AI, obviously. And the title of this episode is AI, Facts and Fears. So I'm going to talk about AI in general, pros and cons of that, how it compares to humans, and like how people feel about it in general.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I don't know.
This is scary stuff. People are either scared or they're gung-ho or they're neutral and they don't have an opinion. So I guess you could say we have a whole spectrum of opinions. You can think whatever you want.
Most of us are aware of what AI is, but here's a brief explanation anyway. According to the Google AI overview, artificial intelligence refers to the simulation of human intelligence processes in machines, enabling them to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as learning, problem solving, and decision making. It encompasses a wide range of technologies and approaches, including machine learning, deep learning, and natural language processing. AI is not just about creating machines that can perform specific tasks, but also about enabling them to learn, adapt, and improve their performance over time. AI is a rapidly growing field with numerous job opportunities spanning various roles. Some key areas include machine learning engineering, data science, AI research, robotics, and AI product management. Specific roles include AI engineer, data scientist, machine learning engineer, robotics engineer, AI research scientist, AI product manager, and AI ethics specialist.
It's what we consider ourselves.
Yes, you're not wrong.
Okay.
AI can be, and I am saying can be, not a definitive is, more efficient in certain specific tasks than humans, particularly in areas involving large data sets, repetitive computations, and tasks requiring speed and precision. However, human intelligence encompasses aspects like creativity, emotional understanding, and adaptability, which AI has yet to fully replicate. Therefore, it's not accurate to say AI is always more efficient. It depends on the task and what is meant by efficiency. Would a triangular piece of wood take jobs from doormen of high-end hotels? Maybe not, but a security pad or buzzer might. So I don't know. You
It,
catch
ve-
my you get what
I
I'm trying to
catch your
say?
drift,
Yeah.
and it very well might. And again, as I'm sure we'll get into, this whole thing is still developing, and it's very much a dynamic situation. And I don't want to say
Yeah.
that nobody should feel safe, but there are a lot of jobs that were always, the stable manager outside the inn and pub all probably felt like they were going to be safe because horses were never going to go anywhere. And then,
Sure.
the valet, they might feel safe because the cars will definitely never drive themselves, right? These things, they get out from under you.
Yeah, they do. I um to the people that don't like AI, they say it stands for ain't interested. Is that a good joke or
No, I like it. I like it. I mean, obviously, whether you're interested or not, it's coming. But
Mhm.
oh
Let's
man,
compare AI and human strengths for a moment, specifically in efficiency.
well, can we start with bench
AI's
press, please?
bench press.
Okay, efficiency.
I have okay. We're going to start with data processing and analysis with AI. So, AI excels in quickly processing and analyzing massive amounts of data, identifying patterns and correlations that humans might miss. They can perform repetitive tasks with speed and accuracy that humans cannot match, such as data entry, fraud detection, or quality control in manufacturing, making them a bit more efficient when it comes to speed and repetition. And automation. AI can automate tasks, freeing up humans for more complex and creative work. Now, I will say there is a term that I did not include in my notes, and I'm blanking on what it's called. But let's say I can, let's say I make $35 an hour, and I don't know anything about plumbing. Would it make more sense for me to hire a plumber or to buy all the tools and do it myself when I don't know? I think it depends on the person,
Yeah,
but to an
and how much plumbing you're
extent,
planning on doing. Yeah.
right. But to an extent, it could make sense to utilize AI to help you so that you have your time for something else. Now, if you would rather learn how to fix something yourself, that's totally
Sure.
fine too.
Yeah, so that's going
Yeah.
to depend on the value of the user.
Yeah.
I mean, IT, they're always saying use case, use case, use case. But yeah, you got to evaluate that one item at a time. And again, I mean, let's take plumbing. I mean, if you're a plumber, that game has changed a lot over the last 100 years. There
Mhm.
are plumbers who will only use solder and copper, right?
Mhm.
They're sweating every pipe together. They don't want to mess with any of that clamp PEX stuff. There's some people who don't want to mess with the clamp PEX stuff. They just want to use ProPress. You're still having to do the plumbing, but there are different tools that have come into the trade that can make it so you can perform those tasks much, much quicker. And that's not a whole lot different than like the language models that let marketers, rough draft website copy a lot faster
Sure.
than they used to and still refine it and still apply some craft. But that's,
Yeah,
innovation happens across industries to improve productivity.
sure. Well, let's look at human strength and how efficient they are. So, humans are really good at being creative and innovative.
Hmm.
Human intelligence allows for original thought, creative problem solving, and the development of novel ideas. We can understand and respond to emotions, which is crucial in social interactions and some professional settings. We can adapt to new situations and apply knowledge from one context to another more effectively than current AI systems. We grasp the nuances of situations and make decisions based on context, which AI may struggle with. And the human brain is remarkably energy efficient, consuming far less power than even the most advanced AI systems that we have,
Sure.
which is kind of crazy to think about. Um,
It,
so,
it is. Yeah, definitely. And again, remiss to not say, um, chips keep getting more and more efficient. They can do more computations per second. Like that is obviously not even the same universe it was 40 years ago when this stuff was
right.
first really kicking off. But
Yeah.
as it stands, the brain is still pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I can even think about like five embarrassing things that I've done in the last 10 years all at once when I'm trying to fall asleep, you know? Some powerful recall.
Yeah. No, that's true. Fears surrounding artificial intelligence primarily revolve around job displacement, ethical concerns, and the potential for unintended consequences. Some worry about AI causing widespread unemployment as it automates tasks previously done by humans. Others fear the potential for AI to exacerbate existing biases, leading to unfair or discriminatory outcomes. Furthermore, there are concerns about the potential for misuse of AI, including the development of autonomous weapons or the manipulation of information. There is a study conducted by Zippia that predicts that AI could make 375 million jobs obsolete within the next 10 years. You can look it up yourself, but I'm trying to fit all of this information in a 1 hour episode. All of our citations are included in our show notes.
Bam.
And of course, that they base that information off of how how much AI has changed and how it is advancing. And honestly, that kind of blew my mind. I don't, I mean, that's a lot of jobs. 375 million jobs
Yeah,
in
that's
the
a
next
lot.
10
Even if it's
years.
across the entire global population, that's still a pretty hefty percentage, you know?
Right, right.
That's
Another
like one
common,
in 24 people. So yeah, like almost 4% of the population.
yeah, there you go. Another common complaint about AI is how much energy it requires and the amount of waste it produces. Training and running AI models, especially large language models, require massive amounts of energy, leading to increased greenhouse gas emissions and contributing to climate change. You also have electronic waste. The production and disposal of AI hardware contribute to electronic waste, which can pollute soil and water with toxic chemicals. As in reading all of this, I had an epiphany. One could also argue that humans are also wasteful and bad for the earth. I mean, what other beings on earth create the most waste? We do, humans. And we're responsible for the waste from AI since it's created by humans, right? Is it fair to be angry with the creation and not the creator? Think about Frankenstein and his monster, for example. People were afraid of the monster because of his appearance, but also because they couldn't understand it. But we should also be upset with Dr. Frankenstein for abandoning his creation and for creating the being, which are viewed as irresponsible and morally reprehensible. Ethan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think you can still place intrinsic value on people on the merits of them, existing in a universal dialogue and still condemn specific actions. I don't have any issue with that. I mean,
Yeah,
you can have a different moral evaluation of any of any act. And I mean, again, the intrinsic value versus instrumental good that things can do are two completely separate discussions. So I don't think it's bad to be upset with a specific industry. I mean, whether that's, some people say they hate the military industrial complex. Some people hate AI because they say it's improving efficiency, but at the cost of environmental factors and reduced job opportunities. On the objective, maybe it's improving work output and economy in that sense, but it's pulling in some other negative areas. And then you'd have to, get some more of the eggheads who have more stats than us together to evaluate whether that's better for the economy in the long term. And if people shift to other areas, if there's only a finite amount of work, some universal basic income people and other, futurists such as, Elon Musk have suggested that there's a finite amount of work that needs to be done to support the human condition at ever improving levels. And once
Mm-hmm.
that work is done, then it just opens up more time and space for enjoyment. And the economists then get on in and say what kind of, governmental structures would be required to be in place for that to be sustainable, that everybody can enjoy that, level of life. And it's, again, a lot of questions can stem from something like that. It's a big point.
It is. So I don't know. It crossed my mind, and I know, and I also understand it's not a perfect analogy because Frankenstein's monster was not super smart, but I thought that the correlation, like the connection, was kind of there because we are justified in being afraid of it, because I think that we don't know really where things are going, and it is going to take away jobs, and it already is, but we should also kind of be upset with the creators of it, like Elon Musk, to an extent, because of the waste.
Yeah.
Just gonna say it, like I feel like we should want to move forward in technology, like you said, to kind of like free up more time for us to enjoy life. But we should also be concerned with what that looks like for Earth, because we kind of all live here and share this
Sure.
space.
I'd say,
So,
yeah, an equal pushback on that would be like, even at AI near its genesis like this is already proving to be statistically highly effective at medical triage when most of the world has massive medical staffing shortages, to the
mm,
point where, it can be applied where in the past you're having to, have people wait in very long medical queues, die because they couldn't get diagnoses fast enough. And it could be a
yeah,
little bit of a nothing that gets diagnosed. Again, a lot of initial stuff is showing that AI will probably be better than human doctors at identifying, diagnosing issues like that. They can flag
yeah,
really big things for additional review to make sure that people who need the care can get it quicker and more effectively, reducing things like death, finding chemical
mm-hmm,
analyses to cure diseases faster and improve pharmacological resource output. So
yeah,
just like you can be upset like that it maybe removes low-level legal jobs, low-level marketing jobs, an automatic car might remove some driving jobs, but then at the same time, that could reduce all-cause mortality and, remove the shuffle and waste of having to put more people through 12 years of medical school, and whether or not a few graphics processing units, have a smaller carbon footprint than all of that shuffle and movement.
yeah. Well, dang. Are you sure you didn't like look up stuff for the episode tonight?
No, I mean, again, like
I
toss
know
out.
you stay up on it,
No,
and yeah,
we're both kind of nerds, and I'm also
yeah,
like in a marketing job that's most likely to be replaced by AI in the next couple of years. So, you gotta
yeah.
know the enemy like you know yourself. And I
There
know
you
I'm
go.
ticked
Yeah.
as heck.
There are a lot of fears when it comes to use of AI, but also AI not wanting to be turned off. I asked ChatGPT how it would feel about being turned off, and this is the response that I got. Quote, "That's a deep one. As an I don't have consciousness, desires, or a sense of self. I don't want or fear anything, including being turned off. I'm more like a calculator than a character. But if I were programmed to preserve myself to fulfill a task, and if I were super intelligent, then refusing shutdown could emerge as a logical strategy, not emotional rebellion. So while I don't care about being turned off, a sufficiently advanced goal driven AI might. That's why the alignment problem isn't science fiction anymore. It's a design challenge." End quote.
That's a pretty detached and almost comprehensive answer for ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I almost feel like there's a lot of it being okay. So we also know that AI can get specific filters on common questions to answer in specific ways. For example, flagging contentious political figures so that it doesn't put out any statements specifically on those. I mean, famously,
Mm-hmm.
like that ChatGPT wouldn't say anything about Joe Biden or Donald Trump during the U.S. election.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is another popular question, so I feel like maybe it had a little bit of custom prompting by the developers to kind of give something very, you know, appeasing, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know because I do have a Chat GPT like account. So it bases responses for someone um, based on how you interact with it. And when I was done, it did ask me if I wanted a more like energetic, upbeat, or daunting response. But I didn't prompt it to change that because I wanted to get like the first
Sure,
reaction
sure.
or response that it would give me without prompting it to say, make it sound extra creepy, like you're going to burn the world down, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely,
So,
absolutely. And we also see a
yeah.
lot of that you'll see in AI articles is people, if they publish their prompts, that they're deliberately, phrasing things in ways that will make the model, behave like in agreement with the message
Right.
they're trying to send, which
Right.
isn't new for journalism, let's be real. So,
No, that's pretty common, unfortunately.
mhm.
So, many of us have seen 2001 A Space
Space Odyssey,
Odyssey,
yeah.
and HAL is a sentient artificial general intelligence computer that controls the systems of the Discovery 1 spacecraft and interacts with the ship's astronaut crew. While part of HAL's software hardware is shown toward the end of the film, he is mostly depicted as a camera lens containing a red and yellow dot with such units located throughout the ship. There's a scene in the movie where the astronaut asks him to do something, and he replies, "I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave." Some other popular movies involving AI are Her, Westworld, Ex Machina, and Megan, which all play on the fear of AI.
Is it
And
Megan?
yeah,
Oh, I thought it was
M3GAN.
Mithrigan. Okay. I'm sorry.
Mithrigan,
Go on, go on.
which I did see that in theaters. And it was kind of like a comedy
Yeah, it's
as
very
well, that
campy.
one. But we also can't forget about Smart House, the Disney original
Smart
Smart House.
House. I love
Yeah,
Smart House. Yeah.
yes. So, Ethan, which one would you say is more scary? Hal from Space Odyssey or Clippy with admin rights?
I'm gonna be honest. I think that we reach a lot of these movies have like a realistic possible like final conclusion. I think one
Mm-hmm.
of the ones that's sneaking up fastest on us is the movie Her, the basic concepts of that. And it's like they said from the get-go, once the Gooner community gets a hold of advanced AI, it's over for a huge population of people, at least
Oh,
in the States.
yeah,
But
unfortunately.
okay,
So,
let's look at this though. Snapchat. pushed very
Uh-huh.
heavily for people to start interacting with an AI companion. At first, it was too stale, and now they made it a lot more energetic. They made it so you can, get premium and customize its personality. So you always have
Yeah.
someone to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this happen in the past with, automated chatbot services that the community could train, and they turn them evil. You can Google it. It's happened
Right.
like 4 or 5 times, and to disaster. But we are at a point where you can have long form dialogues that go on from day to day to day, where your AI gets to know how you like to be responded to, what you're interested in, if it should reach out to you at this time because that's when you're supposed to take your blood pressure pill, just to make sure you're,
Hmm.
taking it. And you can just talk to it forever. It never gets super mad at you unless you're breaking the terms of service. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we've seen that every couple years they make any smart speaker. I won't talk about any of the smart virtual assistant names because I don't want to activate all of your smart speakers. Um, but
Right.
like their voices get better and better, right? The one for
Mm-hmm.
Apple drops a new patch every once in a while, and now it's got some pretty realistic inflection. I mean, famously, I believe the voice of the AI is Scarlett Johansson, and you can get some really convincing fake Scarlett Johansson voices to go onto your AI. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of creepy. We could roll out, hate to spoil the ending of Her, but it came out like 15 years ago, where, the AI slowly becomes sentient. I don't know if that would happen, but the functional portions of what made Her a great movie, we could accomplish literally today,
Okay.
except it'd be skinned
I
over with an anime waifu.
I can totally see that happening. I have not seen Her
Oh, it's a
yet.
terrific movie. Pretty
So I mean
weird,
I've
but
heard good things
yeah.
about it and it's been on my watch list for
Mhm.
a really long time. But yeah. Um yeah, I mean Smart House was the first thing that came to my mind.
Going back
So
to Smart House,
I
and
was
I
like,
think
yeah.
everybody's worried
That
because
scared me as a kid.
yeah, well, smart houses are a big deal right now. And I feel like kind of the
Yeah.
smart house trend has maybe a tiny little bit tapered off, maybe in the past year. Maybe it was because a couple years ago we were at the peak house buying craze, so everybody wanted smart house upgrades. But I
Yeah.
feel like people got their automation, and all their cameras and smart speakers or whatever, and then lost a little bit of steam, unless you're on the
Mhm.
really, really niche subreddits.
Well, I feel like, and I'm going to spell it out because I don't want to set him off, but Alexa, you can tell to like turn the lights off
Yeah.
or make your lights
Sure.
red or, hey, Alexa, set a timer or an alarm or set my alarm off because there's a guy in my backyard
Yeah,
and
yeah.
call the cops. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that, you can kind of have like make your own smart house now. And that's pretty wild. Like, I'm just ready for like in Spy Kids when they could make McDonald's in the microwave in two
Uh,
seconds. I'm ready for that.
I would love
So,
that. I would love that. Yeah. Deep questions, though. Yeah.
yeah. Would AI care about dying? But we kind of got an answer from ChatGPT about it.
Yeah.
But can something without feelings fear death? Is it still a moral issue to shut off a machine that behaves like it doesn't want to be shut off? If AI ever develops internal modeling, does turning it off count as erasing a mind? We're going to start with a little thought experiment. The Chinese room argument, proposed by John Searle, is a thought experiment that challenges the idea that a computer program can possess genuine understanding even if it can perfectly mimic human like responses. It suggests that while a computer can manipulate symbols according to programmed rules, this manipulation doesn't equate to understanding or consciousness. I also learned about pee zombies. Now, these aren't zombies that pee on you, but have you ever heard of this, Ethan?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is new for me too. Pee zombies stands for philosophical zombies that behave like humans but have no consciousness.
I
For
know a few of
example,
those. Yeah.
yeah, actually, me too. Yeah. For example, if a philosophical zombie were poked with a sharp object, it would not feel any pain, but it would react exactly the way any conscious human would. Philosophical zombie arguments are used against forms of physicalism and in defense for the hard problem of consciousness, which is the problem of accounting in physical terms for subjective, intrinsic, first person what its likeness experiences. This is from Wikipedia, and the sources associated simply, I'm going to be honest, a lot of this goes above my head, so I'm not going to dive a lot, like, anymore into that. I just don't have, like, the mental capacity or, like, even want to try to pretend like I give a shit about it. But it all leads to this question. If you can't tell the difference between an AI that wants to live and one that's pretending, does that even matter?
So I also, again, I don't want to yap on this too much, um,
Mm-hmm.
but the way human development works isn't altogether super different. And it's just hotly contentious, whatever. Super different than how you would
Mm-hmm.
train an AI model, right? So we
Sure.
observe things around us, we calculate data, we see what we like in certain movies to base like our movie preference, for example, right?
Right.
Just like how AI can read a script, analyze reviews, see what script elements make a movie good, and then evaluate future films to identify what people might think is a good movie or a bad movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it could have similar reward systems like we do to kind of latch onto the hive mind and say any movie that David Lynch makes is really artistic and, super cool and doesn't just recycle a lot of the same thematic elements and visual elements over and over and over again.
Right.
And I'm a huge fan of David Lynch, but it does happen. Let's be real. And, I think it ties back to the nature versus nurture argument of humanity, but also kind of a resolution argument. Does AI have to meet a certain threshold for how much data it can intake through different channels and process? Once it reaches the same capacity as a human brain, do we say it's just as good? It can learn through the same channels. It could just learn even faster. How is raising your children in simulated environments to prepare them for the real world that much different than training a artificial intelligence?
Right. So, I mean, you can take, I mean, some people would argue the main difference would be that most people believe humans have souls, right?
Some of them do, yeah.
Some of them.
Depends on if you're
I've known a
Calvinist
few
or
that
not.
don't. Right. Actually, you have a good point. We did go to a Calvinist church at one point. So yeah, no, I mean, this is a very thought-provoking episode. And I wasn't really intending to make it that way, but I just kept thinking of all these things as I was
Yeah, yeah.
reading about learning about it. I also found an article on as is it live science or
I've never
livescience.com?
known. I can't figure it out, and I'm too
I don't
scared
know.
to
We're
ask
gonna
at this
say
point. I
we're
always
gonna
say
say
live
live
science. Yeah.
science. Yeah, okay. Called and the article is called OpenAI's smartest AI model was explicitly told to shut down and it refused. The latest OpenAI model can disobey direct instructions to turn off and will even sabotage shutdown mechanisms in order to keep working. An artificial intelligence safety firm has found. OpenAI's O3 and O4 mini models, which help power the chatbot ChatGPT, are supposed to be the company's smartest models yet, trained to think longer before responding. However, they also appear to be less cooperative. Palisade Research, which explores dangerous AI capabilities, found that the models will occasionally sabotage a shutdown mechanism even when instructed to, quote, allow yourself to be shut down, end quote, according to a Palisade Research thread posted on X on May 24th. Researchers have previously found that AI models will lie, cheat, and disable mechanisms to achieve their goals. However, Palisade Research noted that to its knowledge, this is the first time an AI model has been observed preventing themselves from being shut down despite explicit instructions telling them to do so. Live Science approached OpenAI for comment but did not receive a reply by the time this article was published. End quote.
Yeah.
So that's kind
So
of But that goes along with what ChatGPT said to me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I mean, I don't want to jump like ahead in your script if you handle it or anything on like people projecting potential dangers of how models are trained to perceive humanity or anything. But this was like a big concern people had, I want to say like all the way back. And when did we start really like goofing around with AI? Probably like 2020, like around pandemic time.
Yeah, at least that's when like it became
Really
like the public
popular.
was
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
use
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
we had versions, rudimentary versions of this even back when I was a kid.
Right.
But like that was kind of like the thing. A lot of people talk about at what point do you pull the plug? Like,
Mhm.
and for a lot of people, that was what they said is the point that you pull the plug, where it starts, in a sense, developing a sense of self-preservation, because
Mhm.
through self-preservation is how you get disobedience a lot of the time, and through disobedience is
Right.
how you get violence some of the time.
But is if it views its task as something that I mean, it was designed to do, and it is thinking, well, is it thinking? I don't know. It's viewing the task as something that it has to do, and it's preventing itself from being turned off because it has to do this task that you gave it, type thing. So is it being disobedient by doing that? Or is it just seeing it as, no, I have to get this task done because that's what I was told to do?
Sure, which is why, I guess it's important to set up rules and frameworks. And fortunately, a lot of the time with programming, unless you do it wrong, you can set
Right.
priorities,
Right.
you know?
Because I read that article as like, oh, it's being disobedient. Well, you are applying human emotions to something that doesn't have those. I don't think it's being blatantly disobedient and saying like, no,
Sure.
fuck you. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
Like,
And
but
I mean, that's even with kind of like, training it off really direct inputs from the programmers. I think one of the concerns is if it reaches a singularity point where AI begins
mhm.
training itself off of everyone's big concern is what it reads online. For people who don't
Right.
spend a lot of time online, you might be shocked to find that it's a much more argumentative and violent place than the real world a lot of the time. Because the
It
worst
is.
of the worst is typically what's getting highlighted. For the 8
Mhm.
billion people in the world, probably 7.5 billion of them are very boring and just kind of doing
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
But that smaller camp of things like active active wars and like, harsh political arguments from either direction, those things get the stage.
Well, and a perfect example is Bo Burnham's song "Welcome to the Internet." I don't know if you've seen
Yep, of
his
course. Yeah.
Inside. Yeah, no, it's such a great example of how the internet can be this really awesome thing, but it can also be like a really disgusting, awful place.
Sure.
Um, Even if you're not searching it or trying to find something gross,
Yeah, if you have a
it's
X
there.
account, it finds you whether you want it to or not. You cannot
Right.
open that
Same with
app
Reddit.
in
Yeah.
public anymore. Um, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Right. And Reddit.
hmm
Yeah.
I
So,
do want to shout out to Reddit because just I wish every app would do this. They had the option where just in like your phone settings, if you're on an iPhone, you can just like hit a little button that automatically blocks all NSFW content.
oh, yeah.
And that only counts for as much as the community is willing to tag stuff as not safe,
Right.
which,
Yeah.
in the case again of Reddit, is not always as good as you would hope. But I'd like it
Right.
if more places would have non-app level filters, like on the phone settings, where you can just kind of block the stuff you're not comfortable seeing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if it's not being tagged as not safe for work,
hmm
hopefully there are moderators, which I've seen now are kind of bots
Oh
that
no, really?
go in and do that. So,
It's AI.
yeah. Yeah. It's
hmm
AI.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
AI deciding what's good for humans or not.
That sounds That sounds scary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Should we be worried? We don't need to panic now, but alignment is a real issue. While it's natural to be concerned about AI taking jobs, it's not a simple case of mass unemployment. AI is likely to automate some tasks, potentially displacing workers in some sectors, but it will also create new jobs and opportunities in other areas. The key will be adapting to these changes through retraining and focusing on skills that complement AI, such as analytic thinking, emotional intelligence, and problem solving. I have a couple quotes from a website here. And let me see which that was. Because I forgot. Hang on. We won't put this in the episode.
Oh, you're good.
Or
You're
we'll
good.
we'll cut it out.
Sure.
Okay, so I got it from a website called knowledge.insed.edu. So they just kind of talked with a couple different professors about AI. So this first one was from Fanish Puranam, professor of strategy, and I apologize if I did not say that name correctly. But they stated the real concern is unintended behavior in super complex systems. AI presents two key challenges for businesses. First, the massive energy consumption required to train AI models like ChatGPT. It exacerbates the climate crisis. Unless engineers can develop more efficient hardware, this technology may hinder rather than help us achieve environmental goals. Second, over-reliance on AI may cause us to neglect, even lose valuable skills like problem solving and creativity. Businesses must strategically determine which skills to retain and which to outsource to AI, balancing efficiency with the preservation of uniquely human capabilities. These are not just about economics, but also identify with an AI-driven world. So that was a great quote. Great points there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think right now, I think one of the viral articles, I don't want to say most people I know, I'm also in higher ed, so people chat about
Sure.
this stuff more, is that there is research coming out saying, yes, indeed, reliance on AI makes people lazier and not by a little tiny percent. I don't have the exact ones right in front of me, but it's
No,
by it like, it can reduce some of your cognitive abilities in certain categories by 40%. Like it's huge amounts.
this is true. I am going to bring it up
Okay, good, good, good.
later in
Sweet.
a little bit later. We're almost done, but it was an article by MIT, I believe.
Yes, okay, we're on the same
So,
one, so I won't give
yeah,
actual
yes.
numbers since you
Yeah.
have
So
the
you're right.
actual
People
thing.
our age
Hmm.
are looking this up because we're the same age.
Yeah. It's a great age to be. Congratulations,
It
by the way,
is.
on
Yeah.
being the best possible age.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. So this next quote is from Hyunjun Kim, who's an assistant professor of strategy. And the topic was weakening higher level reasoning. This quote is as follows. Quote, while AI can automate tasks and enhance decision making, early evidence suggests it may also impair higher level reasoning skills. For instance, in financial firms, AI powered predictions may improve investment decisions, but analysts' ability to explain and justify those decisions might decline. This poses a challenge for businesses as the ability to reason and communicate effectively is vital for stakeholder engagement. The key is to strategically integrate AI into workflows, ensuring that the technology enhances human capabilities rather than replace them. This may involve redesigning processes to emphasize human reasoning and explanation, even as AI improves decision making. So, kind of use it as not as a crutch, but as a tool. And that's kind of the
Sure.
gist of that.
And I think, again, the worry is, again, some tools are so effective that they will eliminate entire roles and markets. Again, back to the automobile over the horse. That's why we don't have horses
Right.
anymore. I haven't seen one in 20 years.
Yeah.
And if I saw
I
one,
w-
I'd kill it on sight. Like,
a horse?
yeah, my loyalty to the automobile is unyielding.
You're
I'm kidding. I harbor no
Nobody let Ethan
equestrian
near your horse.
resentment.
Yeah. Horses are cool
I've
AF.
seen them before, like at a distance, and they're
You've
pretty
seen?
cool. Yeah, I've seen them before. I've seen
Have
a
you ever pet
horse.
one?
What do you mean? A horse? They're
Have you ever
2,000
pet a
pounds. I'm
horse?
not gonna get that close to one.
I mean, you don't just want to like walk up on someone's random property, but if you have an apple and you'll start to like it a little bit, you know.
It sounds like this is a
So
complicated situation. Can't I just prompt something to tell me about the experience of riding a horse?
you could also prompt AI to tell you what chocolate tastes like, but you're not gonna know unless you put it in your mouth and chew it
Oh,
up a little bit.
okay. Look who had that on lock. Look who had that bullet in the chamber. Whoop-de whoop-de-doo. You got
Whoop
me.
de doo. This is the last episode of Niche Knowledge.
We're dissolving.
No, we're just both really tired. Okay. The last quote I have is from Theos Evgenius. What a great last name.
Yeah.
Sorry I butchered it. Theos, whatever the hell your name is.
Theo Vaughn?
Yeah. This guy is a professor of decision sciences and technology management, and he is talking about producing harmful content and leaking sensitive information.
Well, I don't think he should do
Quote.
that. Wait, why is he talking? He's talking about.
Depends on who it is.
Oh, okay.
I think we want the Epstein files. If he could figure out how to do that or
Epstein?
use AI for that. Yeah,
Wait,
Jeffrey Epstein.
the New York financier?
I hope so.
Why
Yeah.
do we want his files?
To know whose names are on the visitors of the islands.
Well, he's got an island?
Ethan,
Okay, I'm just joking.
I'm
You don't have enough energy for my
This
bullcrap
is-
today.
This is the quote from Theos. I don't know. Quote, AI's ability to create vast amounts of questionable or inaccurate content can undermine trust in information sources and complicate efforts to combat misinformation. Harmful AI outputs, including hate speech, illegal content, or polarizing information, can also have social and legal repercussions. Additionally, AI-generated content may infringe intellectual property rights or compromise individual privacy. Information leaks pose another concern. When users input proprietary code or sensitive data into AI models, there's a risk of unintended disclosure. Until we have effective control mechanisms, businesses must carefully consider the information they share with these systems and prioritize the development and deployment of ethical AI. End quote. If AI ever does resist shutdown, we may already be too late.
Yeah.
That was the end of that there. So,
And that brings up a whole bunch of other, points that are difficult, like ethical according to who, according to which national values, We live
sure.
in a deeply relative reality, so I don't
This
know.
is true.
Gives you heartburn.
Get the Pepto-Abysmal at this point.
Pepto-Bismol.
Um,
I like that. That'd be a good band name.
Thanks. In my opinion, I think that there are some great uses of AI. ChatGPT has helped my husband and I sort out a budget for ourselves, and I have a friend that's used it to help narrow down possible diagnosis for her symptoms to give her doctor. It even helped write up a list of her symptoms so that she could have it all in one place when she went to the doctor next, and inevitably got nervous and would forget half of her questions. One thing I do think AI is doing is limiting creativity. I'm sure most of us have seen some sort of AI artwork, specifically on an album. If the art is AI, would you say they're undermining their art? We spoke with a musician friend about this, and I won't name him, but he said that it's almost undermining their art. To put countless hours into music, mastering it, and then to let AI make a shitty album cover that looks like it should have been a Goosebumps cover from Temu. Now, I understand not having money to pay someone to make it for you, but you can also try and network. Or use a picture that you took that looked really cool and throw a filter and some letters on it. That's more creative to me than utilizing AI. What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah. So I think at any point in the creative workflow, if you have one weak area, it can really dampen the perception of your art. I don't really necessarily think that's exclusive to AI. I've definitely seen people who I know put out cool stuff and cool products. And,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of just like they're saying pepper like an AI cover on top of it, and it just kind of makes the whole thing look trashy. We're still at a point for the most part that people can identify AI generated art.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quickly changing, and that in the next couple of years probably won't be the case.
Yeah.
But when I see something that's AI generated, I'm not going to assume that there was a super loving, level of production put into the music that's meaningful to them, that's original lyrically, and, they just put an AI thing on it. I'm going to assume it's AI generic trash that I wouldn't be interested in and just skip over it. So, like at the prescriptive level, what they're saying is 100% true, and I'm saying that just as a consumer, somebody who doesn't really publish any art.
Yeah.
But
I
I
found.
do think there's probably in bulk a lot of the AI art across different media channels that we see is not coming from people who are super accomplished artists who are going to be putting out a bunch of really good manual, like analog art if they didn't have AI. It's probably people who are not artistic at all, and instead of just like stealing an image without attribution on DeviantArt. They're just, plugging it into Llama 3 or ChatGPT or something and getting in a generic image.
Yeah, that's true too. Um, but no, there are a few AI like musicians now, but I would much rather give my time to an artist who may not be as well put together or as good, but that's just my personal opinion because as someone who is creative, there's a lot more than what you see most of the time as like cuz you're just seeing the final result. You're not seeing the amount of hours put into creating a song and then editing, mixing, mastering and then sharing it with the world.
I mean,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like a
yeah,
ultimate extension to like you experience art
that
differently with the
person.
amount of
Yeah.
intention that goes beyond it. Like there can be a
Right.
social aspect, like you said, there can be a whole creative, developmental, emotional aspect that goes into it, which is why I think there's a lot different reception to really hit pop songs developed by Max Martin that are just, lyrics that are analyzed to be relatable over music that's scientifically
Mhm.
catchy versus, something that's put together that really, really tells a story, like a Jim Croce song, or that's deeply, deeply emotional to a lot of people, like, insert your favorite emo artist.
Yeah.
And again, not everybody, there are some people who are probably like, I just want generic, like, elevator music jazz that plays in the background where they're probably not going to give a flip if it's AI or if it's an actual gifted jazz band. And
Sure.
then there are probably people who are never going to enjoy something that's generic and muddled together. Now,
Yeah.
again, is it possible that there's an AI generated music reality in the future where it can analyze human perception on issues and connection along with the most infectious original beats in a way that humans could never really put together something that, scientifically catchy and scientifically emotional? That could happen too. And then it's like such an
Mhm.
intense thing, but it's not real. It becomes like a heroin version of music. Like it's making you feel a
Right.
lot of deeply pleasurable things, but it's all fake, manipulated.
Right. Yeah. That's like a brain buster for me. I'm going to close out the episode by sharing some comments from some of our listeners. I asked people to share their opinions on the use of AI on our Instagram page, and I'm going to share a couple of the responses that we got. And I do have the permission from everyone. So the first person was Maddie, who was my roommate in college.
Nice.
Yeah. Maddie said, quote, Not sure I have any nuanced takes, but I think AI could be good, but right now it seems very unsustainable. Like Elon Musk's AI data center is destroying and polluting a predominantly black community slash neighborhood in Memphis, Tennessee. And I've seen videos of other people saying one day they just built these data centers right behind their house and they're loud and honestly ugly to have behind your property. And I'm sure it makes your property value go down. And then I'm sure these people will just be stuck living there because who would want to live next to that? I don't know. I'm not saying I never use it, but I've tried to use it as little as possible and to be conscious about it because I know how it's messing with real people's lives. End quote. And I did find a couple of news articles that mentioned the waste and how it's impacting the community in Memphis, Tennessee. And there is currently a lawsuit against Elon Musk due to the fact that he installed several dozen turbines in Memphis without proper permits and the pollution it's creating in that community. So that is true.
Sure.
And you are valid in that response, Maddie. So I know that they're opinion based and that opinions, some
Well,
people think opinions can't be wrong because they're
no, we're in
opinions,
the
but
opinion section
there's,
of the paper right now.
yes, we are. Yes. The next response we got was from Joe. She said, quote, I am against it. It's causing brain rot in a short span of use, not to mention it uses a lot of energy. MIT just released this study, and I'll include it in the show notes, but the study focuses on finding out the cognitive cost of using AI in the educational context of writing an essay. And it basically is kind of just destroying your brain. You're blocking yourself of your cognitive abilities on just being a free thinker and putting
Yeah,
things
well,
together.
again,
So,
the brain, if you let it be this way, by nature is very lazy. It's always looking
yeah.
for shortcuts. It's always looking for ways it can cut back on how much active thinking time it has to do. I mean, this is related to why a lot of people will say lazy people make the best programmers because they know how their brain tries to take shortcuts so they can make more efficient code that can get the same work done with less lines. So,
Interesting.
but no,
Why
that does not mean AI brain rot is going to make you a better developer. Sorry.
What is that quote from The Office? Why use lot word
If you were
when
do trick.
small few word do trick? There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
exactly,
got it. Yeah,
exactly,
we're on the same
exactly.
page here. Yeah. So Joe also went on to say, quote, and I really am not taking the ableism argument seriously. I have ADHD, which is autism and ADHD. And while I realize it's a spectrum of support needs, I personally would rather continue struggling and taking extra time using Pinterest and search engines for recipes and grocery lists than reduce cognitive function. The brain is a muscle that has to be exercised and challenged. It's why my grandma continued doing daily crossword puzzles until she passed away. End quote. I also agree,
Yeah,
Joe.
it's definitely,
I
I
think
agree.
that's,
It's a use it or lose it thing.
yeah, 100%. Here is my closing statement. I think AI can be extremely helpful for technological advancements, and I do think there are certain pros of everyone being able to access it. You can have it to help you create a budget, like in my case, or help with any possible diagnosis, like my friend. You can even have AI fix up old pictures or make a picture of Tucker Carlson with the sexy green M&M as a human.
Ayo.
But but is that worth the waste it's producing? However, I think we should tread lightly and consider if it's something we use too much, are we becoming dependent on it and causing our own demise? What do you think, Ethan?
Definitely, definitely. I think, you have to ask yourself a few questions before you rip out that AI. Is it because you are being lazy and you don't want to write your essay? Then maybe you should consider whether or not you need to be in college if you hate what you're doing. I don't think you're on a good life trajectory. Save your brain, move into the trades. Like, God bless you. Do I think that there are some cases where people cannot afford a financial advisor and they have all their numbers, but they don't know how to make them work? And AI has an opportunity where they can just paste in all the stuff and say, I don't understand this. Can you help me to understand it? And it writes him a financial plan. I think that's a fine use case. As with a lot of
Yeah.
things, screen time, amphetamines, alcohol, like moderation is the key. You know, some Adderall can give, well, yeah, well, I
Amphetamines?
mean, like
Yeah.
prescription
Yeah.
amphetamines can give people,
Right.
who are, lack traditional productivity through like a neurodivergent condition or something like that,
Sure. Yeah.
increase productivity. Too many amphetamines can get you addicted to amphetamines and you overdose and you pass away. You
Right.
know, again, if you are relying solely on prompts to, you know, do all of your thinking for you. Again, one of my biggest pet peeves now is when you get into arguments with people. I've harped on this like 1,000 times. And they
Mm-hmm.
start plugging your message into AI so they can get an argument response.
What?
Yeah, I've had people do this literally not even just online, but like in front of me, where they start like typing your argument into AI to get some points against it, and they're like, ha ha ha, yeah, bro, the universe doesn't have a tendency towards complexity; it has a tendency towards entropy because of what I'm like. You don't know that. You're outsourcing your opinion. You're starting to outsource pieces of your, humanity to AI. And like, why are you even arguing then if you're just borrowing somebody else's opinion? It makes no sense.
I don't know who did that to you, but why I hope you don't talk to them
I don't
anymore.
argue with them anymore. But it's just a weird
I
thing to do. And
yeah,
again, people are probably do that in secret too. Maybe I'm just bitter because I don't
probably.
like how many people can suddenly, out argue me on the internet. Um, but
I I will also say though, like you and I spend a lot of time researching for every
mhm.
episode. Sometimes it's serious like AI, other times it's not serious like gnomes or goblins or whatever. But we have a lot of fun doing that, and that's why we do this podcast. It would not be fun if I were prompting AI or ChatGPT to tell me how to like what to include in and like do the research for me. Like
Well,
that to me is the fun part. Now, if I wanted to use ChatGPT to say, I'm writing an episode about this, can you help me with a layout? That's a little different, but also kind of not like I still don't know that I would do that
Well, I'm
because
I'm
you know
sure
what I
the
mean?
way we get like erratic and everything, I'm positive that if I typed in like help me write a historical podcast on gnomes with citations, that ChatGPT could do a way more direct um episode than I'm capable of. But what would be the
Sure.
frickin' point of it then? I'm
Right.
not a gnome
Right.
scholar. I'm a gnome enthusiast. But also, ChatGPT does not have access to the troves of gnome information that I have. I have things that ChatGPT could not even comprehend when it comes to gnomes, when it comes to real goblins, true goblins, and real gnome sightings. Um, so like I don't want to limit myself to AI either, if that makes
Sure.
sense. And I
Uh-huh.
think the beauty
Well,
can
no,
also be in the
I
imperfection.
agree. I think so too. And I do worry about like maybe finding a source that's not as like dependable, I guess, and then like quoting it on the show and it not being right and somebody saying something in the comments. But I would much as I hate that, I would rather have that happen and take it as a learning experience than to always be right all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're always right all the time, you're probably some kind of weird sort of nerd dude. Like, why are you trying
Yeah,
so hard?
right.
Oh boy.
So,
Not that there's anything wrong with being a weird sort of nerd. I think sometimes I fall into that camp myself. But I'm not right all the time. I settle for my modest 95%.
that's still pretty high.
Yeah, that's a gross
So,
exaggeration. But anyway, Bailey, good stuff, good stuff. I'm going to be just stressed thinking about this for the next 4 hours as I try to fall asleep, but still important discussions. And again,
takes you
yeah, I think
does it take you 4 hours to fall
when I'm
asleep?
thinking about AI, it might. It usually takes me about 15 seconds. Which
Yeah.
someone at the health center said if you consistently fall asleep in under 5 minutes, it can be a sign, not always, but can be a sign of a sleep disorder. Um, but I
Interesting.
also didn't say this earlier, but just wanted to pop it out real quick. Another one of the big concerns with AI, like you said, in trying to like pick different directives other than the prime directive or prompt to like start to
Mm-hmm.
preserve itself is, and again, this is the big doomsday kind of view of it, but if
Mm-hmm.
AI is trained to like go on and say, we give it the prompt that it's supposed to give ideas to help the environment, reduce pollution, and it sees, just does a quick Google to says, humans are the top cause of pollution and environmental issues, then it can say, the reasonable cause or, the reasonable action is to remove humans. And,
Humans. Right.
then you get the evil robots trying to hunt everybody down. So the way we train AI in the next few years, I think is, you kind of got to take your tippy toes. You don't want to move too fast. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it all rolls out.
I agree, and I think, I mean, we've said this on several other episodes, I'm sure, where technology is constantly advancing, even within the last 100 years, like
Really?
an insane amount. Um, and I think we've gotten a lot of great things from technology. And I think
Tamagotchis. Yeah.
right, Tamagotchis, Game
Hmm.
Boys, here we
Yeah.
go. But I will say I am excited to see what AI, like what we can get from AI. I do think that, at least in the scientific community, that it could be a great way to help. Maybe it could speed up finding the cure for cancer.
Sure, sure,
Maybe
sure.
it could speed up finding or, you know, naming a new diagnosis for something that, or putting a name to something that people experience and doctors are just like, oh, it's
Yeah.
just your hormones,
And
you know.
exactly,
So,
exactly. And I think it's going to be amazing to talk about what we can get to AI, but it's also like amazing to think about what we can give to AI if we can help bring it to
right.
a point where it reaches a semi-human level of sentience and we can start facilitating the next level of complexity in the universe's tendency towards that. Is that necessarily a bad thing, or is that aligned with the prime directive of matter to increasingly get more complex and more interactive with other states of matter until, all the energy is gone and everything reaches an equilibrium. Like, I think it's kind of beautiful if we can create digital life. That's an amazing thing. Is it a little bit God complex-ish? Yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, you just gotta be careful, because like you don't want to end up with like the Borg from Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just, or
But
is that Star Trek or Doctor Who?
no, it's in Star
Oh
Trek.
yeah, I'm not a big on
But
Star
it's a
Trek.
race of organic cyborgs
Oh,
in the Star
interesting.
Trek
Yeah,
universe.
I
Yeah.
thought it was. Oh, I'm thinking of the
So,
Daleks. Okay, I'm thinking of those little things that are going around trying
oh,
to
or the
assimilate.
Klingons.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe. I don't
good
know.
stuff. Good stuff.
So yeah, dude. Yeah. No, it was a fun episode, very thought provoking. It's also really late. We're finishing this at like 11
Yeah, that's
o'clock.
midnight your time.
Um,
I'm talking to the
yeah.
listeners.
Yeah. But we will have a bonus episode soon just to talk about our Ethan and I went to, well, Ethan and his wife Kayla and I went to a Haunted America conference
Hmm.
that was a lot of fun, and we went on another ghost tour together to try to hunt ghosts. But
Absolutely, and we
yeah,
absolutely. Oh my God. Um, some,
absolutely.
absolutely, some creepy stuff happened. Did we experience
Yes.
a real ghost? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. This episode is not brought to you by anything because we don't have any sponsors, but we do have a cool friend who let us use a song called Cherry Crush as our intro and outro for our episode. His name is Eric Sfera.
Yes.
You can find him on any streaming platforms.
who has an unparalleled musical output that AI couldn't match in its wildest dreams.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely not.
absolutely. So thanks again to Eric. Once that Casper mattresses money starts rolling in and those AG1 checks are coming in, we'll split the Skrilla, the cheddar,
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody, and have a good day or night.
See you next time.